Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Cassidy. If you're new here, welcome. It's really nice to meet you. And if you are returning, welcome back. It's good to see you again. So today we'll be talking about City of Glass by Cassandra Clare. It is book 3 in the Mortal Instruments series. So same for all of the videos. If you have not read this and you would like to without any spoilers, please click off the video, go read the book. Once you've read it, click back on, let me know what you thought. I'll be doing an entire summary of the book and my thoughts throughout while reading it. Also, this is not the first time that I've read this book. I think it's just the second. It's been a minute, I think since beginning of high school since I've read this book, so like over a decade ago. I did know some of the things that happened throughout. I'm trying to keep all my thoughts and my questions throughout very neutral, like what I was thinking as I was reading the book, so that I don't spoil anything for you guys, but just so you're aware, not all of my reactions are completely new. If anyone's interested, this is the bookmark I was using while reading it. It's the same one I've been using for the last 2 books. It's Aki from Chainsaw Man Going Kun. As always as well, we'll be referring back to this notebook. It's where I wrote down all my notes while reading, so if you'd see me look down or off to the side, I'm just referring back to my notes so I don't forget anything that I want to tell you guys. Alrighty, let's get into it. City of Glass by Cassandra Clare. To save her mother's life, Clary travels to the City of Glass, the ancestral home of the Shadow Hunters. Never mind that by doing so, she's breaking the law, which could mean death. Even worse, Jace does not want her there, and Simon has been thrown in prison by Shadow Hunters, who are deeply suspicious of a vampire who can withstand sunlight. Luckily, Clary finds an ally in the mysterious Sebastian, who holds a strange attraction for her. As Valentine musters a demon army, can Downworlders and Shadow Hunters put aside their ancient hatred and work together? And can Clary harness her newfound powers to help save them all, whatever the cost? So first impressions, first questions that I have while reading the back is, can Madeline be trusted? She claims that she knows how to save Jocelyn, but Clary doesn't know her. She only knows that Luke had known her in the past, but can she really be trusted after all this time? Will Jace go with her to Idris? Why? What's up with all the Simon hate? Like, yes, he can withstand sunlight, but come on, prison? It's rude. And he's so nice. Can Sebastian be trusted, this newfound ally? And why is he deciding to help her? And also, what cost were they talking about? Alright, so we're in part 1, Sparks Fly Upward. So Clary's going to Idris to help save her mom. Nobody's happy about that. Simon doesn't want her to leave. He's worried about her. Luke is terrified for her because he knows what Idris is like and what can happen to her. And Jace is the most vehemently opposed to her going at all. He is mad and desperate for her not to show up. So she's doing all of her communication with Alec, of all people, which I think is kind of funny because Alec and Clary have not always gotten along. So it's the day they're going to leave. All the Lightwoods, Madeline, Jace, everyone meets outside the Institute. Jace asks Simon to go. And when Simon's there, Jace pulls him aside and he's like, hey, I want you to lie to the Lightwoods for me. Tell them that Clary changed her mind. She doesn't want to go. Clary thinks that they're leaving that night and it's like midday. But Jace tells Simon's like, I'm not going to lie to the Lightwoods for you. Just tell them yourself. Tell Clary yourself that you're not going to let her go, kind of thing. Jace is worried because if the Clay finds out what Clary did on the ship and how powerful she is, they're going to turn her into a warrior, and she hasn't been trained for that. They're going to put her, like, on the front lines probably, make her into a warrior, but she hasn't been trained, and she could end up not alive anymore. Jace doesn't want that for her. He doesn't want her to go through that, and he doesn't want her dead. Then, before they can finish their conversation, the group gets attacked by Forsaken. They all rush through the portal. Magnus is there as well. He made a portal for them. They all rush through the portal. Unfortunately, Madeline is not alive. She was unalived by the Forsaken, but everyone else makes it through the portal, including Simon. Clary and Luke then go to the Institute that night. She finds out that they had already left. Madeline's not alive. They're all in Idris, and Magnus can't make another portal for her because of the wards around Alicante, the city. She's just going to have to stay home. She's not having that, so she decides to make a portal with a rune and go herself. Luke and Magnus not happy about that. She does that kind of in secret, but they see her. Luke follows her through the portal. On the other side of the portal, they end up in Lake Lynn, not Alicante. because of all the wards. She's like, I thought I was just like, that there would be alarm bells. I didn't realize it bounced me off. But they end up in Lake Lynn. Luke is able to save her from drowning in the lake. But the lake has mysterious properties where if a shadow hunter drinks it, they start to hallucinate and like get a fever, and then they'll end up not alive anymore. He's like, where's your steel? We can put a healing rune on you and that'll help. She lost her mother's steel, because of course she did. So they have to walk hours and hours to Alicante. So they get going. Luke is so mad at her. He says that she was a child. She threw a temper tantrum just because she didn't get to go. He's not happy, but he's walking with her, walking ahead of her. But it's the angriest Luke has ever been at her, and Clary is so sad. This is like her basically father, and he's so mad at her. He's so disappointed. Simon then wakes up in a house. Isabella's there watching over him. He's very hungry, like for blood. So Jace goes gets him some. We find out that Jace pulled him through the portal because Simon got stabbed and would have ended up like Madeline had he not gone through the portal and been able to like heal. However, bringing a downworlder to Alicante is against the law, so everyone's very suspicious of both Simon and now Jace. So that's fun. They then meet Sebastian and Aline, who are teenagers. Aline is the daughter of the Penhallows, which is the house they are staying in, and Sebastian is Aline's cousin. Aline is described as kind of like petite and like quiet. Sebastian's a little bit more feisty, like fighting back, teasing people. Luke and Clary continue to like walk. They end up seeing the cemetery with all of the shadow hunters who have died in Alicante. And this is when Clary starts to hallucinate, and she hallucinates seeing her own grave. So Luke knows they have to hurry, that they don't have much time left. They sneak into Alicante, Luke breaking the law by doing so because he is a downworlder. And also Clary's kind of breaking the law. They need paper. They need papers. Anywho, I don't know if Clary actually needs papers, but Luke definitely, if he wants to enter Alicante, he's allowed to do so, but he needs, like, travel documents, basically, which he has none of. Fun. And then they go to Amadis's house. I'm probably butchering her name. But they go to her house. Luke is like, please. She's Jocelyn's daughter, so she lets them in. Jace and Simon then have a conversation. Jace tells Simon, hey, don't tell them that like Clary actually still wanted to come, because then they'll just make another portal and bring her here. Simon's like, dude, you gotta give up on Clary. Like, it's hurting her. That's when Jace tells Simon that he did. He told Clary that all he would ever be to her is her brother. Simon's like, Clary didn't tell me that. But Clary's been very distant since that conversation. And also very focused on saving her mom. Alec comes and he retrieves Simon. He says that the Clave wants to send him back to New York, and through the portal, Magnus will be on the other side waiting for him, so come on, the only portal here is at the guard, you gotta come with me. So he's like, okay. As they're walking, Simon tries to relate to Alec by talking about unrequited love. It's kind of awkward, but really sweet. Like, Simon's trying so hard, and I think it's sweet. He drops Simon off with the new Inquisitor, Aldertree, and the consul, Malachi. The Inquisitor, that was what Imogen was in the previous book, the one who had sacrificed herself to save Jace. So this is the new Inquisitor, and then the consul, I think, is just one of the higher up members of the Clave. Alec drops him off. He doesn't see him go through the portal, and that is because the Inquisitor traps Simon. And he's like, you didn't think we'd let you go back that quickly, did you? You're a vampire who can withstand the sunlight. Ugh, it's so annoying. So Simon gets interrogated by Aldertree, and he's like, it's not looking good for us. The Shadow Hunters are worried about Valentine. We haven't had a win. I want you to say that you were working for Valentine, but at the behest of the Lightwoods, Maris and Robert. That they're still working for Valentine. They have been this entire time, and we're going to, like, probably unalive them. And they're going to be marked as traitors. Aldertree says, if you do this, I'll be lenient with you and just, like, banish. I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, I won't unalive you if you do this. Simon's like, no, they're my friends. Like, not Maris and Robert, but, like, Alec, Isabel, like, Max, the little boy, Jace. They're his friends, and he's not going to betray them. Audrey's like, fine, then you're not getting any blood. So Clary gets healed by Amatis, who we find out is actually Luke's sister. The next day, she starts to feel better, and she wants to go and see the Lightwoods and figure out what needs to be done. Go get Ragnar Fell, who is the warlock that Madeline told her about that knows how to heal Jocelyn. So Clary sneaks out, makes her way to the penthouse house to see the Lightwoods. She makes it, and Izzy's not excited to see her. She's like, what are you doing here? Also, she's wearing Shadowhunter gear, which I don't think she's ever worn before. And so Isabel's like, what are you wearing? But Isabel doesn't want to let her in. Sebastian's like, Jace is just upstairs. So Clary goes upstairs where she sees Jace making out with Aline, the other teenage girl that was there. She's heartbroken. She's so upset and so shocked to see it. Aline leaves. Jace yells at her. This girl, poor thing, all the most important people in her life are just so angry and so mad at her. Jace yells at her, calls her reckless, rash, selfish, that she's just a liability. It's the reason he didn't want her to come, that she would just mess everything up and ruin everything. So she's crying at this point and leaves. Sebastian ends up walking her home after Jace just verbally assaults her. Oh god, it's heartbreaking. But Sebastian ends up walking her home, tries to make her feel a little better, and she does. She also senses that there's something really familiar about Sebastian. She can't put her finger on it, but it's not the first time that she has seen him. After Clary leaves, Jace punches out a window, gets all scraped up. Alec bandages him up, does not put a healing rune on him, because he wants him to heal like a regular mundane and think about what he just did. And also the fact that he's just hurting him. Alec knows that Jace is just punishing himself at this point. Yelling at Clary like that and making Clary react that way. Yes, it hurts Clary, but it also kills Jace. Alec's like, dude, you gotta stop. He also tells him about Simon. He had sent a message to Magnus, and I'm assuming asking if Simon had gotten there. He hadn't. So he's like, hey, Magnus never got Simon. Simon didn't go through a portal. He's in prison. During this conversation, Jace also tells Alec, hey, I know about your feelings towards me. They're not real. Which, Jesus Christ, Jace. Just hi, I know you like me. There's no self-awareness there. And, oh my god, I died. Anyway. So, Jace's like, hey, I know about your feelings towards me. They're not real. You only think you like me because it's easy. You liking me means that nothing will ever happen. Parvati, which is what they are. I don't think I ever mentioned this before, but Jace and Alec are Parvati. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's basically just two shadow hunters who I think they're partners. They draw on each other's strength. They help each other. It links them together. Anyway, they're not allowed to fall in love with each other. Not entirely sure why. I don't know if that's just hey, you're not allowed to, or something bad will happen if you do. I'm not entirely sure. But that's just the thing with them. I don't know if that has already been described in the books or if that will be described, but you find that out. So he's like, it's just easy to like me because nothing will ever happen. I'm a safe person to like. Please don't stop what is going on with you and Magnus because of your fake feelings towards me. And then he goes to break Simon out of prison after dropping that bombshell. Jace visits Simon and he's like, hey, I'm going to get you out of here. Simon's like, no, here's what Elder Tree is saying about the Lightwoods. Please don't break me out because that's just going to put more suspicion on you guys. And that's not okay. But I need blood. Just on it. Sebastian visits Clary. It's the next day. He visits Clary and he's like, hey, I know where Ragnar Fell is. She had told him about it, I think, on their walk home the previous day. He's like, hey, I know where he is. Come on. So she's like, all right, let's go. They take a horse and ride out, and they go to Fell's house, and instead of finding Ragnar Fell, Clary finds Magnus Bane. Sebastian has never met Magnus Bane. He doesn't know who this is, and he's like, I'm Ragnar Fell. And Magnus ends up putting like a freezing spell or something on Sebastian, like where he's just frozen in place. But Clary can still talk to him. She's like, what happened? He's like, Ragnarfell's dead. She's like, what? And he was unalived by Valentine's men. But there's like a demonic presence surrounding them. Demons can't enter Idris, so the demonic presence is kind of weird. It's not like strong enough where demons were there, I believe, but he's like, yeah. Anyway, he dead. But I know what to do. Clary needs to go get the Book of the White, which is a very powerful spell book. Magnus says, you get it, you bring me the book, I will keep the entire book, and I will heal your mom. She's like, all right, bet, where is it? He says Wayland Manor, but there's intense wards around it, so no one can enter aside from maybe Wayland's child. Or the child that grew up in the Wayland Manor, which would be Jace. So she needs Jace after their huge fight and all the shouting and him calling her reckless and everything. She's like, fabulous. This is going to be fun. So they go back. Magnus unfreezes Sebastian and they leave. Sebastian is being very gentlemanly and very kind. Him and Clary end up kissing. And Clary just senses something wrong. Like, something is wrong with the kiss. Something doesn't feel right and it's kind of gross. So she pushes him off of her. And he is so mad. Like, grabs her wrist really hard or her shoulder, something like that. And is very, very upset. She's like, what the hell, dude? What are you doing? And he's like, sorry. Like, come on, let's get you back. Like, but the reaction was extreme. When they make it back, Sebastian tells Clary that Simon is not only in Idris and Alicante, but that he's in prison. And I think he did that out of spite because he's evil. Isabel leaves like a little package of blood for Simon and a cute little note. It's just sweet. Raphael then appears as a projection to Simon and tells him that he has to accept his death. He's a vampire, but he still feels like he's alive, and that's not okay. He needs to accept that he's dead. Simon also has a prison neighbor that he can't see. Goes by the name of Samuel. And Samuel says, I used to work for Valentine. I was part of the circle until the very end. I came here to warn the Clave about what Valentine's going to do. He's going to bring the wards down around Alicante, and to do that, it's demon blood. Demons obviously can't enter Alicante, so blood can't get in. However, it's going to happen. Demon blood is going to get on these wards and neutralize them. Then Valentine is going to bring in all the demons and destroy everyone. The Clave obviously didn't believe him. They have faith in their wards, but is it too much faith? Is it blind faith? Jace visits Clary, apologizes. Clary loses it and is mad. She attacks him, which, queen. She doesn't, like, forgive him. Like, he said horrible things to her. He's like, I'm sorry. Also, now she knows that Simon's in prison. But she needs his help. So the two of them make up enough that they can go to Wayland Manor. Clary portals them there with Jace's steel. The Book of the White is in the library. It's hidden within a cookbook because Valentine wouldn't open a cookbook because apparently he's a macho man who doesn't cook. Lame. Anyway, while there, Jace tells about his childhood, how he would read everything he could get his hands on. And he also tells more of Valentine hurting him when he was just a child. Jace had found a notebook that said, like, observations of Jonathan Christopher. It was the first time Jace had realized that he had a middle name. But when Valentine had caught him reading it, Valentine hurt him really bad. So Clary knocks down the books. And Jace joins her, and they knock down all the books. And I think this was kind of cute. But by doing so, they open a secret passageway that Jace doesn't remember from living there. It leads down to like a basement. They go down, and they see an angel in chains. The angel is Ithuriel. Also probably butchering this name. Sorry, I'm butchering every word in this video. So the angel Ithuriel is down there, and he shows Clary and Jace visions of the past. Of Valentine chaining up Ithuriel, asking him why they didn't give Shadowhunters more of the abilities that Downworlders have, that they're at a disadvantage. Ithuriel asking to die, like Valentine not doing it, it also shows, the most notable vision that he shows them is that Valentine gave his child, his boy, demon blood from a greater demon and fed it to him as like either a baby or to Jocelyn while he was in the womb. Well, the boy was in the womb. Giving a child greater demon blood will strip away and burn any sense of humanity that there is. After showing the visions, they decide to set Ithariel free. And once he is free, Ithariel commits unalives himself. By doing that, he was what was holding the manor up. So the manor comes crashing down. Jace and Clary make it outside. They kiss very intensely and very passionately. But Jace says it explains everything. The fact that I have demon blood in me explains why I feel the way I do about you. I shouldn't be feeling this way about my own sister. It's not right. It's not okay. But I feel this way about you. And it's because I have demon blood and I'm losing all my humanity. Clary's not letting him use her like that. So she stops the kiss and she's like, that's not true. And he's like, it is. But Clary feels the same way about him. And she doesn't have demon blood in her. Stops the kiss. Jace is upset. Clary's upset. And Clary lost his steel when the manor was falling down. Because the girl can't hold on to a freaking steel to save her life, apparently. So they have to walk back to Alicante, which is hours away. The girl is getting some massive exercise on with all this walking. But this is also a very long walk because Jace is mad and not talking to her. Alright, we are now in part 2. Stars shine darkly. So Isabel's worried about Jace because he's been gone for a really long time. Max comes down. He's like, hey, something or someone is climbing up the demon towers. They're the towers that have the wards all around them. And no one believes him. Isabel and Alec are, that's not possible. Go away. He's like, I'm telling the truth. And there it gets bedtime. Aline then gets like kidnapped through a window by a demon. So maybe you guys should listen to Max next time. But Isabel goes after her, saves her. But Aline then runs away. She's terrified and she just runs away. So Isabel's like, dang it. Okay. Runs after her. But she can't catch up to Aline. Alec comes, gets her, brings her back to the Penhallows. He decides to go out and look for Aline himself. Isabel goes upstairs, changed. I think she was in a dress at this point, which isn't good demon fighting clothes. So goes up, change, get more weapons. Sebastian is downstairs putting up runes, like protection runes. When Izzy comes back downstairs, Sebastian knocks her out because he's a bastard. Back at the guard in the prison, Samuel reveals to Simon that Valentine's plan is working and we're going to be left down here because everyone already believes that we both work for Valentine. They're not going to bother rescuing us. So that's awesome. Poor Simon can't get a freaking break. Alec is fighting demons as he's looking for Aline. He sees blue sparks, which is Magnus's thing. It's his magic, and so he goes. Magnus and Alec fight demons, kind of argue a little bit, but they're flirting. Like, it's cute. I love them. Jace and Clary race back to the city because they had seen, at the end of their walk, they had seen Alicante on fire. So they race back to the city and are about to be in real trouble with a demon when Maya comes and she rescues them. Yay, we love Maya. And it's revealed that Luke had called all the werewolves that he could. And they all made it to the city because he knew that some serious shit was about to go down. So once, basically, the demons are driven away or unalived by the Shadow Hunters, they make it to the Hall of Accords, which is where everyone is meeting up. Lucas also makes it there, where Malachi, the consul, he argues with Luke about him being there at all. And Luke's like, you're lucky we were there. We saved a bunch of you. And he's like, you're a downworlder. It's stupid. They're fighting. Clary gives the Book of the White to Magnus. He's like, thanks, girl. She's like, no problem. Sebastian then pulls her aside. He has like scratch marks on his face where he says, a she-demon got him. He's such a freaking bastard, and I hate him. Because the she-demon is Isabel. And he also states, when Alec's like, why are you here? Why aren't you with Izzy and Max? And he's like, oh, your parents came back. They sent me on ahead. At this point, you know he's evil because he freaking knocked Isabel out. But, anywho. Sebastian grabs Clary and he starts to show his true colors and his hatred of Downworlders because he was like, what's Ragnar Fell doing here? She's like, that's actually Magnus Bane. Like, she explains, I gave him the Book of the White. He's like, why would you give such a powerful spellbook to a filthy Downworlder? She's like, what did you just tell me? And he's like, I'm sorry, it's just really powerful and you can't trust him. And, I hate it. Anyway, he says, Simon is still stuck at the guard. He's still in prison. You need to follow me. I'll help you get him out. Alec and Jace stop him. They're like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, I'm trying to help her. And they're like, we'll go with her. Clary decides to go with Jace and Alex, much to Sebastian's anger, but he doesn't say anything. So they go, they rescue Simon, and they rescue Samuel, who's revealed to be Hodge. Book 1, he was the tutor who had betrayed them for Valentine. He's back. So they're all arguing. Hodge is like, I'm sorry for everything I did. I really tried to do my best by you guys. He tells them the story. He tells them what the mortal glass is because they know what the mortal cup and the mortal sword are, but no one's ever known what the mortal glass is. It's been lost in time. He says the story is the angel Raziel, like, emerging from Lake Lynn with the mortal cup in one hand and the mortal sword in the other, and gives it to the first, and makes the first shadow hunter, Jonathan. Like, he turns Jonathan into the first shadow hunter. So he said, he emerges from the lake, the mortal glass is Lake Lynn. They're still fighting after he tells the story. Jason's like, how could you not tell me who I was? Like, at this point, only him and Clary know about the demon blood. And Hodge is like, I'm sorry, I didn't know which one you were, is basically what he was saying. He dies, because that doesn't make any sense. But Sebastian throws a knife, I think, and unalives Hodge. And he comes down there, like, why would you do that? And he's like, he's an enemy. He was working for Valentine. And they're like, he wasn't attacking us. He's like, he was going to kill you. And they're like, with what? The excuses are bad. They're not working. And it's revealed because of that, because they don't believe him, and he loses it. And he's like, God, I hated, like, having to pretend to be your friend and get along with all of you. It's revealed that he is working for Valentine. He is a spy. They all fight, like him, Jason, Alec. He's so fast and so strong. Like, faster and stronger than any shadow hunter ever before him. So he gets the drop on them, but leaves. They make it back to the Hall of Accords, and there you see Maris and Robert holding Max's body. Max has been unalived by Sebastian. It's heartbreaking. He was 9 years old. Like, he was a child, and he's just not alive anymore. It's really, really sad. Aline, it's like the next day, Aline goes to visit Clary, and she is really worried about the Penhallows' relationship with the Lightwoods because of what Sebastian did. So they tell Sebastian's mom, who's like, this isn't like him, what are you talking about? She sends over photos of Sebastian, and the photos of Sebastian do not look like the boy who had visited them. And no one knew him because they hadn't seen Sebastian since he was like 5 years old. But the Sebastian that they knew, that Sebastian that had come to Idris, was not the real Sebastian. So she's like, please, if you tell them, maybe they'll, like, be friends with my family again. She also apologizes for kissing Jace. She says, that must have been really weird. I kissed him. I was simply just trying to even figure out if I like men in general. And they're like, ooh, what's, like, the verdict? She's like, still undecided. Which queen! Love her. Clary tells Luke about Sebastian. At the Hall of Accords, a projection of Valentine appears. He tells them all, hey, I'm going to unalive every single one of you. Unless you basically make me your king, I will be ruler of all shadow hunters. And every single one of you have to wear a loyalty rune on your body. And I'm not entirely sure what that would even mean. The fact that there even is a loyalty rune is weird, but I think it's basically like they can't raise a hand against him. So he's like, you have until like midnight tomorrow to decide or something, or midnight that day. I think it's midnight the next day. And he leaves. Before he leaves, though, he like reaches through Aldertree, the Inquisitor, and unalives him, which should not be possible because he's a projection, but jeez. So then Clary and Simon go to tell Jace and Alec what just happened at the Hall of Courts. They had just come back from Max's funeral. Isabel was too distraught. She blames herself over Max's death, and so she's not there when they're telling Jace and Alec, but she's upstairs and she's eavesdropping. Jace walks Clary home. She's wearing like the same sweater she'd worn the previous day, and the sleeve of it, or like the cuff of it, is like a little bloody. He's like, are you hurt? She's like, no, I think it's Sebastian's blood. He was cut up yesterday. And so he steals a thread soaked in blood. Back at the Penhallows, Simon visits Isabel, and they talk a little bit. He basically tells her what everyone else I'm sure has already told her, that it wasn't her fault about Max. But she wants a distraction in the way of Simon and having some fun. And yeah. Jace visits Clary in the middle of the night and tells her that he loves her, that she might think it's the fact that he thinks it's the demon blood that's making him say it, but he loves her. They fall asleep together. Nothing hinky going on. They just fall asleep holding hands. It's really sweet. Jace sneaks out at some point, goes to Luke, who's still arguing with the Clave about, he's trying to be like, the Downworlders will help you fight, but we want a seat on the council. Like, one seat for every Downworlder kind there is. They're all fighting. Jace tells Luke that he's going to go after Sebastian. He knows how to track from his time when he was with Magnus and they were trying to track Valentine. They just need something of Sebastian's, which he didn't bring anything of his own or leave anything of his own, but he has this strand soaked in blood. So he's going to track Sebastian. He's telling Luke because he wants Luke to explain it to Clary why he's doing it. Luke tells him, basically, be careful. Like, he knows he can't stop him. Clary wakes up, finds a note saying the same thing. When she goes downstairs, Isabel and Simon are there, making pancakes. She talks to Isabel, shows her the note. Isabel's like, yeah, kind of figured. It is what it is. Jace will do what he does. She's like, Clary's like, we have to go after him. We have to help him. She's like, it's fine. Like, he's going to do what he does. Clary accuses Isabel of not actually caring for Jace. And Isabel's like, I care for him more than you will ever know. He is my brother. And she's like, the reason I didn't want you here isn't because I don't like you, Clary. I actually do like you. The reason I didn't want you here is because your presence hurts Jace. She's like, I hope Jace never has to see you again. Like, because it just hurts him. In the middle of them kind of arguing, Jocelyn shows up. So now we are in part 3, The Way to Heaven. So Jace rides a horse to go after Sebastian. So he follows Sebastian by the tracking, and also Hugin, who is the bird that we formerly knew as Hugo of Hodge's bird, but Hugin works for Valentine. Clary yells at Jocelyn, like full on, is like, how could you? You lied to me about everything, that I have a brother, that my father's alive, about shadow hunters, you took away my sight. And Jocelyn just kind of takes it. The relief, like, Clary has been so focused on saving her mother's life that when she actually saw that Jocelyn is fine and standing, she's in shadow hunter gear, she's ready to go. There was obviously relief seeing her alive, but there was so much anger that she's been keeping buried that just unleashed when she saw that her mom is actually okay now, but she is angry at her, which is so fair. Jocelyn did what she did to protect Clary, but she had to know that if Clary ever found out, there would be consequences to their relationship. The Clave is going to give in to Valentine's demand and swear loyalty to him because they're freaking cowards. But Clary comes barging into the Hall of Chords and she's like, stop, no you're not, because I can make a fancy rune that binds you with Shadowhunter, that binds Shadowhunters and Downworlders together. So basically the rune is called Alliance, or at least that's what Clary's going to call it. And it allows Shadowhunters the durability, the speed, anything like that of the Downworlder that they align themselves with. And it allows the Downworlder the fighting abilities of Shadowhunters. So it'll make everyone stronger, and it's just fabulous. She proves that she can do this, because no one can create new runes, and she's like, I can. She proves that by putting a rune on herself that allows everyone to see the person that they love most in the world. Now they have to argue about that, and if they're going to do that. While they're doing that, Jocelyn and Clary talk. Jocelyn tells Clary that she's really proud of her, that was really brave what she did, going up to the whole claim and be like, I can help. Hey everybody, Editing Cassidy here. Just wanted to pop on because I realized I did not explain this next part very well at all, and it's really important. It's when Jocelyn tells Clary about her past. So she tells Clary how Valentine was different when they were younger. They fell in love, got married. She was so ecstatic when she found out she was pregnant for the first time. But it was a hard pregnancy. She was sick the whole time. This was also when Luke had turned into a werewolf, and Valentine had went to Jocelyn, said that Luke had unalived himself out of shame over being a werewolf, so she was just laying in bed all day, every day. She only ate for the sake of the baby. She was depressed. The Shadowhunters didn't have a word for something like that back then, but that's what she was. We also know that Valentine had given Jocelyn an elixir during this time to help with the baby. We know that the elixir had demon blood in it. Jocelyn obviously had no idea at the time. Once the baby was born, she couldn't even stand to look at this baby boy that she gave birth to. Couldn't stand to look at him, hated him, sensed something was so wrong. In the real world, we would probably refer to that as PPD, but of course we know that it is because she sensed something horrible and wrong and evil with the child because he had demon blood in him. Not just demon blood, but greater demon blood inside of him. But she played happy family during this time. Valentine continued to give her an elixir to try to help her heal and help her get better, not knowing that she was pregnant at the time, and this elixir had angel blood in it. Jocelyn would also go to visit Elaine Herondale. I think that's her name. It's either Elaine or Celine, but I refer to her as Elaine throughout this video. She was the new wife of Stephen Herondale, Valentine's number 2 after Luke had turned into a werewolf. So Elaine was heavily pregnant during this time, and Jocelyn went to visit her, and Elaine was just singing Valentine's praises, saying, he's so kind, he comes over and makes me tea, like, he's such a good man. Jocelyn's horrified because she knows that that tea isn't just regular old tea, that there's something inside of it that will turn her baby into not fully human. She assumes that it's demon blood. We know now that it is actually angel blood that he gave Elaine and then Jocelyn the second time. And he only used the demon blood elixir the one time with Jonathan, his firstborn. Jocelyn then turns to Clary and she tells her, Jace is not your brother. Luke told me all about Sebastian, and I know that that is the child that I gave birth to. That is Jonathan, not Jace. It's revealed that Jace is actually a Herondale. Stephen Herondale became Valentine's number 2 after Luke had turned into a werewolf, and Valentine told Stephen, you need to marry someone else, someone better, and so he married Elaine. When Stephen died during the Accords debacle, Elaine, being so distraught over losing her husband, unalives herself. She slits her wrists. I think that's how she does it anyway. And Valentine goes to her and cuts the baby out of the womb and proceeds to raise that baby as his own in Wayland Manor. Jace Wayland, or Morgenstern, is actually Jace Herondale. And Jace and Clary are not siblings. Clary's big brother is actually Jonathan, or Sebastian. But that means that Jace isn't Clary's brother, and their feelings are normal, and yay! We're so excited! Woo! They're not siblings, they're not siblings. Because, of course they're not. Can't be that in love with your sibling. That would be just creepy. Jace finally makes it, catches up to Sebastian, who's talking to Valentine, and there's something very familial about it. Jace knows that it is really weird, Valentine reveals that he's going to raise Raziel, the angel, from the mortal glass, or Lake Lynn, and he's going to wish that every shadow hunter who had not drunk from the mortal cup be turned into mundanes, and because they're all heavily runed up, they're going to turn into Forsaken. Valentine's not allowing Sebastian to join him because Sebastian has to release the demons. He says do it at midnight. That's what we agreed upon. Sebastian ends up releasing them early. He knows once Valentine leaves, Sebastian's like, Jace, come out. They fight. Sebastian reveals that he's Valentine's son. He knocks Jace out. The Clave has agreed to Clary's idea, and they've agreed to all be marked up. Yay, they're not so cowards anymore. We love it. So she shows everyone like the rune that they have to, every shadow hunter basically has to put a rune on the downworlder, and then I think also on themselves, and that's what links them together. Alex searches for Magnus, finds him, chooses him, and kisses him in the hall of course in front of everybody. All the ships are sailing, and we love it. His parents see. It's so brave. It's so brave, and we love it. We love to see that he is brave enough to kiss his boyfriend in front of his parents. Oh! Raphael then appears again as another projection to Luke and says that the vampires will fight on one condition: they get Simon. Luke's like, nah, we're not doing that. Simon overhears, and he wants to do it. He wants to give himself over to the vampires because he knows that if this fight happens and every other downworlder kind gets a seat on the council but vampires and shadow hunters will just be mortal enemies forever. And he doesn't want that. So he goes to Raphael. Raphael then is going to unalive Simon because he's too dangerous being Raphael calls him a daylighter because he can walk in the daytime. Before Raphael is able to do anything, though, Simon shows him that he actually bears the mark of Cain. Clary had put it on him. The mark of Cain is a biblical term, but basically, if anyone hurts you or I think unalives you, that same pain will be done 7 times onto the doer. However, they are forced to roam the earth for eternity or something like that. But he's a vampire, so he's already going to do that. I'm not entirely sure the consequences of this mark on a vampire. You know? Jace wakes up. He's bound. He sees Sebastian release all the demons. He does it early because he's annoying and we hate him. Jace then goads Sebastian into letting him go because Hugin is there and will tell Valentine that Sebastian killed Jace while he was unarmed and tied up, which Valentine will not like. So they fight. Sebastian also reveals that Jace is actually not Valentine's biological son. Sebastian is the biological son. Sebastian almost gets Jace, unalives him. Izzy comes through a portal, however. She saves Jace by, I think cutting off Sebastian's hand, which queen. However, Sebastian then turns it on her, almost unalives her. Jace is able to save Isabel by unaliving Sebastian, stabbing him in the back. Which, thank God. Clary overhears Malachi talking to Valentine, revealing that he is the traitor. The consul, one of the most high-ranking members of the Clave, works for Valentine, which, of course, Malachi was always a freaking coward anyway. And annoying. He was the one who was fighting Luke about downworlders being an Idris. Anywho, Hugin is also there. He unalives Malachi, because Valentine has no allies and no friends. Clary knows that Valentine is at Lake Lynn, so she portals there. Drops in the lake. Valentine ends up saving her and putting the healing rune on her, so she's not going to hallucinate. But he also puts, a silencing rune on her, so she can't speak. And binds her hands and feet together with other runes. He saves her because he wants to use her blood to raise Raziel. Jace ends up saving Clary's life because that's his thing. He saves people. He is very willing to end Valentine's life. However, Valentine is quicker and he stabs Jace through the chest with the mortal sword, I think, using Jace's blood instead to raise Raziel. But Jace is now not alive. Clary's heartbroken. She was finally I can be with Jace, and now he's not even alive anymore. She watches Raziel be raised. Valentine is like very egotistical towards the angel. Like, he's just annoying. He's saying that they don't have enough, like shadow hunters aren't strong enough, and Angel's like, sucks to suck, basically. Raziel refuses to grant Valentine any kind of a wish. He is egotistical, maniacal, and he held captive an angel for decades and hurt him as much as he could. So Raziel refuses. Valentine's like, there's no other, and he's like, there's her. Raziel, like, it's described as him spitting at Valentine, but the spit is like an arrow and it goes through Valentine. So Valentine is no longer alive. Hell yeah. And he gives Clary the wish. And she wishes for Jace to be alive. And he is! So Jace is now alive. Clary's alive. Valentine's not. Happy. And we are now in the epilogue, which is Across the Sky and Stars. So Jace is in the hospital for a couple days. The day he leaves, it's Valentine's funeral. They burn him. They do much more for him than he ever deserved. But Luke comes up to Jace. He doesn't fully join. He watches from afar. Luke comes up to him and basically tells him it's okay to miss him. He was your dad. Like, no one's going to think less of you for missing your father. And he's just, Luke is the best dad on the planet. And he does not get enough credit. He doesn't have a biological child of his own, but he's been a dad to so many other children, and we stand Luke. Jace goes to visit Clary at Amadis's, but she's not there. Instead, Amadis is like, hey, I heard you're Stephen's child. Here's a box of Stephen's things, because Amadis was married to Stephen. She was the first wife. Valentine had forced Stephen to divorce Amadis because of Luke turning into a werewolf, but Amadis loved Stephen more than anything. Still had a box of his things, gave it to Jace for whenever he had questions about his biological father. Also, it's revealed that Jace has a little scar that looks like a star on, I think, his shoulder, and it's revealed that that is actually a birthmark that every Herondale carries. The legend states that it is the mark of an angel. Like, if you've met an angel, touched an angel, that kind of thing, that is the mark that they give you. And it's just been hereditary through the Herondale line. So Imogen saw that scar, knew instantly that he was Herondale, that he was Stephen's child, sacrificed herself to save Jace. We find out her dying words to Jace were, your father would be proud of you, which Jace thought was an insult because he still believed Valentine was his dad, but she was actually talking about her own son, Stephen. Stephen would be proud of Jace, and Amadis agrees. Jocelyn and Luke are together. Luke confesses to Jocelyn, says, I've always loved you. You don't have to feel the same way. I just feel better saying it. I'm going to be on the council, have a seat on the council, and I'm going to move to Idris. Amadis is like, girl, you gotta let him go. And then she's like, wait, you love him? And she's like, it's not fair. And Amadis is like, Lucas only ever wanted you. Go get him. Clary overhears all of this. When Jocelyn sees Clary, she's like, I didn't know you were here. Clary opens the door for Jocelyn. Is like, if you don't go after him, I will kill you. And she's like, all right, bet. She goes after him. They end up together. They're adorable. Literally, all the ships are sailing, and we love it. So they're throwing a big party for winning the war. Clary is in a pretty dress. She finds Jace. He has the box. They talk. Clary states that she was worried that Jace would no longer want her because it's not forbidden. Aline had put that thought in her head because Aline is just, she just says whatever she wants. It's kind of hilarious. And she didn't say it maliciously. She was just like, oh, maybe it's this. Anywho, so Clary voices her fears to Jace, and Jace is like, you are everything. From the moment I met you, I've been able to be myself with you, not just part of myself, but my entire self. I can't breathe when I'm not with, like, it's a very cute confession. They kiss passionately, and we know they're not siblings now, so now we can actually fully be excited without being like, oh, they're cute, but, like, we love them. Alec and Magnus are really cute. They're flirting. The Lightwood parents are shaking Magnus's hand. They saw Alec kiss him, so hopefully they approve. Unsure exactly how they feel, but they're at least being cordial, so we appreciate that. Fairy Queen is at the edge of the woods. She beckons Clary over, so she goes. And the Queen wants a favor for a favor. The favor she wants from Clary is to talk to Luke and have one of her knights, Meliorn, have the fairy seat on the council. Clary refuses this because she doesn't need a favor. She has everything she could ever want. She has Jace, her family, Simon. Everything is good. So she doesn't need a favor. And also, the Fairy Queen knew that Jace and Clary weren't siblings, yet purposely said something to make them believe that they were. She said that they shared the same blood. And she's like, I said things how I saw them. All of you shadow hunters share angel blood. You're all siblings in our eyes. And she's like, but we're not. So I don't need you in my life, and I don't want you in my life. So she refuses, tells Jace, and he's like, not everyone would refuse a favor. And she says the same thing. She's like, I have everything I want. Fireworks happen. Downworlders and shadow hunters are getting along. And overall, it's just a really happy ending. And that, my friends, is the story of The City of Glass by Cassandra Clare. Book 3 in the Mortal Instruments series, which felt so much like the finale, felt like it could be the final book. It's definitely a mid-season finale at least. Yes, there's some questions. Simon's Mark of Cain being probably the biggest one. Oh, also, I forgot to mention this in my recap, but Sebastian's body was missing. So they had said he was washed upon, he went into the lake, but Jace had his doubts about that. So where is Sebastian? So there are questions, but it's definitely mid-season finale kind of thing. And it could have been a finale. So I think there's 3 more books in this series, which is wild to me. But overall, I love this series. I think it's so cute, so fun. And we love that Jace and Clary aren't siblings, and that's finally revealed. Did you guys know? Did you have any thoughts while reading the first 2 books throughout this book that they weren't siblings? There were little clues here and there. Simon stating that he could see, Clary and Valentine shared a jawline a little bit, but Jace was stand like Valentine and walk like Valentine. Did you guys have any inkling that they weren't siblings, or did you fully believe that Cassandra Clare was just really into siblings being, into each other? But please tell me what you thought down below. Again, there are 3 more books, so if you want to talk about what happens in the future, please be kind and courteous. Let people know that you're going to mention a spoiler. Also, if anyone has seen the show, what differences did you guys see? I think this is kind of where the show ended. I have never seen it, but I think there were only 3 seasons of the show, and this is kind of where it ended. So what differences did you note throughout? I think the show focused more on Magnus and Alec, which is appreciated, but what other differences did you see? Did you notice? Please let me know. Subscribe if you're new, like the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye!